The old Victorian house loomed against the bruised twilight sky, its gingerbread trim skeletal lace against the deepening gloom. Dr. Reese Thorne, a parapsychologist with a reputation for both brilliance and stubborn skepticism, gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. Beside him, Lena Petrova, a sharp, no-nonsense investigative journalist, fiddled with her camera, an anxious energy thrumming beneath her professional composure. In the back, Marcus MacJones, a Reese's burly, perpetually unimpressed sound engineer, grumbled about the lack of cell service. Across from him, huddled by the window, Chloe Vance, a psychology student and a Reese's eager intern, clutched a worn teddy bear, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. The fifth member of their team, Silas Croft, a local historian with an unnerving knowledge of the house's dark past, was already inside, having arrived earlier to set up. "Are we sure about this, Reese?" Lena asked, her voice betraying a hint of unease. "Whisperwind Hill has a reputation." Reese merely scoffed. "A familiar sound. Superstition, Lena. We're here to debunk it, not fuel it. Besides, Silas assures me the house is structurally sound. Mostly." They found Silas in the cavernous main hall, illuminated by the beam of his large, industrial flashlight. He was a gaunt man, his face a roadmap of whirring lines, and his gaze lingered too long in the shadows. "Glad you made it," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. "The air, it's heavy tonight. More than usual." Mac rolled his eyes, setting up an array of sophisticated audio recorders. Chloe, meanwhile, was already taking readings with a thermal imager. "Temperature fluctuations in the West Wing," she announced, her voice surprisingly steady. "Significant drops." As Reese began setting up his own equipment, a deep chill permeated the hall, far colder than the dropping evening temperature. The grand, winding staircase, draped in cobwebs, seemed to stretch into an inky blackness above them. Suddenly, a distant, muffled thump echoed from upstairs. "Probably just the wind," Reese muttered, but his eyes, sharp and analytical, flickered upwards. Lena, ever the pragmatist, switched on her camera, its lens reflecting the dim lights like a hungry eye. "Let's start the sweep. West Wing first." Chloe's readings seemed promising. As they moved, a series of small, porcelain dolls, previously arranged neatly on a dusty mantelpiece, began to sway. Slowly at first, then violently, until one toppled and shattered on the floor with a sickening crack. Everyone froze. "Whined?" Mac asked, his voice now laced with a tremor. Before Reese could answer, a child's mournful giggle drifted from the upper landing. It was high-pitched, innocent, yet filled with an unbearable sorrow that made the hairs on their arms stand on end.
Silas, his face ashen, finally spoke. They say the children of the Thorne family still wander these halls. They perished in the fire of 1888. Never truly left." "Nonsense," Reese countered, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. He activated a full-spectrum camera. "We'll get visual evidence of dust motes, thermal inversions, anything but ghosts." They proceeded to the West Wing, the air growing colder with every step. Chloe's thermal imager glowed red with cold spots, tracing erratic paths across the floor and walls. Mac's audio recorders began to pick up faint, distorted whispers, like tiny voices speaking just beyond the threshold of hearing. Lena filmed everything, her breathing shallow and ragged. Suddenly, a rocking chair in a disused nursery began to creak, slowly at first, then violently, as if a frantic child was thrashing in it. The lullaby began then, soft and reedy, emanating from the corner of the room. It was a tune of profound sadness, twisting into something sinister as it progressed. Then, the true horror unfolded. Tiny, spectral figures, translucent and flickering like old film, began to appear in their periphery. Small hands reached out from the shadows, barely visible, brushing against their clothes, sending shivers of bone-deep cold through them. One small, spectral girl, her eyes hollow, materialized directly in front of Chloe, her face contorted in a silent scream. Chloe gasped, dropping her thermal imager. "They want to play," a chorus of whispered voices echoed. Not from any single point, but from everywhere at once, pressing into their minds. "Join us, forever." Reese, for the first time, looked genuinely terrified. He fumbled with the device, a new prototype designed to emit high-frequency counterpulses. "Everyone, back, now," he yelled. His voice strained, but it was too late. The tiny, icy hands were everywhere now, pulling at their clothes, their hair clinging to their ankles. Max stumbled, his recorder clattering to the floor, as unseen forces tugged at his legs. Lena screamed, her camera falling, its lens cracking as it hit the floor. She scrabbled backward, pushing herself against the wall. Silas, however, moved with an almost resigned urgency. He pulled a small, leather-bound book from his coat pocket, muttering ancient, guttural words. As he spoke, a faint, shimmering light began to emanate from his hands, pushing back against the chilling presence. The whispers intensified into a cacophony of desperate cries, a chorus of tormented children. The spectral figures solidified, their features becoming clearer, their eyes hollow with ancient suffering. They weren't just children, they were angry children. Reese finally managed to activate his device. A piercing, high-pitched whine ripped through the air, causing the spectral figures to recoil, shrieking in pain and fury. The air shimmered, and the oppressive cold momentarily lifted.
"Run! Get out!" Reese roared, pushing Lena towards the door. The escape and the sacrificity stumbled out of the house, Mac dragging Lena, Chloe clinging to Reese, her face tear-streaked. The high-pitched whine of Reese's device filled the night. But as they reached the front porch, Reese looked back. Silas was still inside, standing in the main hall, his light growing brighter, the ancient words still flowing from his lips. He was buying them time. The house itself seemed to twist and groan, the spectral forms momentarily pushed back by Silas's ritual and Reese's device. But they were fighting a losing battle. The whispers, though fainter, still carried on the wind. "Silas!" Reese yelled, his voice raw. Silas merely nodded, a grim, determined look on his face. "Some things," he called out, his voice strong despite the terror, "need to be laid to rest, Reese. Permanently." As the last of them cleared the porch, the front door of Whisperwind Hill slammed shut with a deafening crack. The piercing whine of Reese's device abruptly ceased. A wave of profound, suffocating cold washed over them from the house, followed by a chorus of chilling, triumphant giggles that seemed to shake the very ground beneath their feet. Then, silence. They scrambled into the car, Reese's hands shaking as he started the engine. As they drove away, the rear-view mirror showed the old Victorian house, now entirely swallowed by the oppressive darkness, only the faint outline of its sinister silhouette visible against the horizon. Silas Croft was gone. They escaped Whisperwind Hill, but the cold dread, the echoing whispers, and the image of those hollow-eyed children were etched into their souls. Reese Thorne's skepticism was shattered, replaced by a chilling certainty. Some places aren't just haunted, they're hungry. And sometimes, the only way out is through a sacrifice. What lingering horrors do you think they brought with them from Whisperwind Hill?